And good afternoon again. We are now live on YouTube. I understand that Mrs. Natalie Joni Panis just joined us. I saw where she was just admitted. So I will now begin our live stream of the regional finals of the National Tourism Debate. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2022 regional finals of the National Tourism Debate Competition. We are one step closer in knowing who our regional winners will be, and we're excited to have with us this afternoon Team Turks and Caicos, represented by Clement Howell High, there in Providenciales. Is that right? Turks and Caicos. Let's have a round of applause for speakers this afternoon. They're at the Ministry of Education in Turks and Caicos. I would also like to recognize the persons who made this possible. It was a late start for Turks and Caicos, and they had their very own media launch as well as a national competition. So you have in front of us the national champions for Turks and Caicos, and they would have competed. I think they were 6 schools who entered the competition, and so these are the champions with us this afternoon. I'd like to say special thank you to Honorable Rachel Taylor, Minister of Education there for TCI, as well as Minister of Tourism, Josephine Connolly, Mrs. Cheryl S. Jones, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport. I think Mr. Bean can correct me. I know there were some changes. Mr. Amen McCartney, Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mark Garland, Deputy Director of Education, and you will see online with us this afternoon, Brian Bean, Tourism Risk Manager at the Ministry of Tourism, Environment, Fisheries, and Marine Affairs, Culture, and Heritage. And these were the persons who made it possible for us to have a national tourism debate for Turks and Caicos, and we want to say thank you. Our adjudicators this afternoon is Miss Judy Detterville, Public Relations Manager from Sandal St. Lucian Spa and Beach Resort. Mrs. Natalie Joni Fanis, who is joining us as well from St. Lucia, Head of Marketing and Communications at the Sir Arthur Community College. Excavio McFarlane, who is a law student, Faculty of Law at the University of Mona. He's also the president-elect for the UE Debating and Public Speaking Society, and he's a deputy programs manager at J Debating Competition. So we want to thank our adjudicators for being with us this afternoon. The motion that will be presented by the government, who is Clement Howell High, this House believes that intra-regional trade offers very little support to tourism. Proposing first speaker Antoine Butler, second speaker Esther Joseph, and third speaker Kajay Williams. And just a reminder that there will be no rebuttal this afternoon. We are gathering our scores, and at the end of the day, we'll know who our regional champions are. The first speaker is allowed 7 minutes, second speaker 5 minutes, and third speaker 3 minutes, followed by a rebuttal, which will begin with Turks and Caicos, the only team today. We open the floor for Mr. Antoine Butler, first speaker, who will be presenting on the motion. This House believes that intra-regional trade offers very little support to tourism. Go ahead, Mr. Butler.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished judges, timekeeper, members of the opposing bench, my fellow government members, other ladies and gentlemen of this honorable House, I extend greetings to you all. The motion before this House reads, this House believes that intra-regional trade offers very little support to tourism. The mere fact that we are here contending this motion is enough conviction to prove that the opposition is merely opposing, as this is an outright undeniable truth. But Mr. Speaker, it is the government's responsibility to eliminate any doubts surrounding this motion and convince this House that we are indeed correct. The key terms of this moot can be defined as follows. Interregional trade is when trade goods and services happens inside a specific region of the world economy, such as sub-Saharan Africa or the member nations of the European Union, or in this case, the Caribbean. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines offers as a presenting of something for acceptance or rejection. Essentially, we the government are arguing the fact that trade in goods and services inside the Caribbean present very little opportunity for tourism. This fact is indisputable. As Prime Minister, I will outline the trade agreements currently existing and demonstrate the distinct difference between trade and tourism, thus eliminating the imaginary ripple effect that the opposition seems to believe exists. My Deputy Prime Minister will further convince this House by expounding on 3 critical substantives that will prove that trade indeed does very little to tourism, and in some cases could even directly harm tourism. My government member will solidify our stance by reaffirming and extending our arguments. Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, this government would like to highlight the fact that the moot is referring to what currently exists. It states offers, present tense, not what could be done, but what is now available. Now, allow me to paint a picture of the current laws and protocols. The Caribbean Community Common Markets, CARICOM, is a group of 15 full-time member states and 5 associate members in the Caribbean that have come together to form an economic and political community, working together to shape policies for the region and encourage economic growth and trade. CARICOM was established by the 1973 Treaty of Chagarama and later introduced a common external tariff, CET, in 1992. Under the 2001 revised Treaty of Chagarama, establishing the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, the regional arrangement was further deepened to facilitate the free movement of goods, services, labor, and capital, as well as the right to commercially establish businesses throughout the community. Currently, only the CARICOM single market is operational. The treaty also provides for the implementation of a common trade policy. Mr. Speaker, no doubt there are benefits to CARICOM. A free trade market allows for very little, if any, tariffs on imports and exports. There will be no price controls enacted either. However, free trade areas allow communities to cease competing with one another for market shares in certain products and instead allow them to focus on the products that they're most qualified to produce or resources that they alone possess. This also presents an advantage to consumers as they receive higher quality goods at lower prices. But all that I have just described has little to absolutely no bearing on tourism. In fact, there is absolutely nothing within the CARICOM protocols and objectives that speak specifically towards tourism, simply because it was not established for that purpose. The opposition might argue that the spin-off from trade would help tourism, but let us be realistic. Trading among countries is a win-win situation. As was stated before, countries get to focus on their unique products and service and then receive an open market for such. Tourism, on the other hand, is a zero-sum business. Tourism is time and money. When a tourist decides to visit the TCI, for example, for 1 week and spend $3,000 during that week, that money only goes to the TCI. No amount of that money nor that time can go towards Bahamas, Jamaica, or any other country. Tourism is akin to a pie. Each country receives a slice, some big, some small. That slice only belongs to that singular country, unlike trade, where Jamaica gives and Jamaica receives. TCI gives, TCI receives. This is like a barter system. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, intra-regional trade does not support tourism, as its focus is on the exchange of goods and services, not on the exchange of people. Moreover, when a country trades, there's usually an abundance of that same product or service remaining for the host country, so that it will not impact the tourist choice of destination. And before the opposition gets ahead of themselves and brings up the topic of CSME and the exchange of labor force, let me hastily remind them that we are talking about what is being offered now, not the possibility of offers in the distant future. CSME proposes a single economic unit, which would see a free intra-regional movement of capital and single economic of labor and among member states. But as of 2021, there are still various aspects of CSME that need to be finalized by the different member states. The revision to the original treaty contains 9 protocols and other additions that have still not been signed by all members. There are also other aspects that are still in the research and development phase, such as a protocol for tourism. The fact is, what exists of CSME is merely a shell of the revolutionary idea. Will it help tourism if or when fully completed? Only time will tell. But again, what it potentially could do is for another debate. Honorable House, the facts are clear. Inter-regional trade is a great idea, and the discrepancies should be addressed to ensure that CSME is fully implemented. But to say that regional trade has done more than very little to support tourism would be disingenuous. The opposition pauses.
Mr. Butler, we want to get it very clear for our judges who would have just joined. You are proposing the motion, is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, because that's what I said. Thank you, sir, Mr. Butler. Very fiery beginning, I can tell you, I can see you in Parliament. Don't go too far. And next minister with us. Very strong arguments there by Mr. Butler. We
Thank you,
now
Miss.
will invite our second speaker, Miss Esther Joseph. Esther, how are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
All right, okay, wonderful. Good to have you. National champions for Turks and Caicos. Go ahead, Miss Joseph, you may begin.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished judges, worthy opposition, attentive audience, good day to you all. I stand here today as Deputy Prime Minister, resolute in presenting today's motion. This House believes that intra-regional trade offers very little to support tourism. Mr. Speaker, permit me, if you will, to build on the foundation laid by the Prime Minister. I will expound on 3 important factors which substantiates the motion tabled here today. You see, Mr. Speaker, whereas intra-regional trade has its advantages, it offers very little support as it relates to tourism. Environmental impact is one such factor. Take bauxite mining in Jamaica, for example, which began in that country in the early 1950s. While bauxite has its socioeconomic benefits, it has negatively affected the natural aesthetics and environment of the island. Mr. Speaker, bauxite mining is considered to be the single largest cause of deforestation in Jamaica. This activity destroys large areas of forest because bauxite is extracted by open cast mining, which requires the complete removal of vegetation and topsoil. My worthy opposition, are you aware that many tourists visit some countries merely to experience its flora and fauna? Are you also aware that byproducts of bauxite are traded regionally? Are you also seeing the ripple effect? How intra-regional trade offers little support to tourism in this regard? Another key factor which highlights how intra-regional trade offers little support to tourism is loss of cultural authenticity. As tourism grows due to increased trade, there might be a tendency to cater to mass tourism demands. In such cases, there could be a risk of losing the authentic cultural identity of a destination as businesses adapt to cater to the preferences of a larger, more diverse tourist base. Mr. Speaker, may I remind you that tourists visit particular countries to gain exposure to their unique culture. One of the best things about traveling to another country is eating your way through it. Tourists love and appreciate food for its authenticity and value. Intra-regional trade diminishes this authentic tourist experience. Certain dishes are no longer only offered in their home countries, but can be accessed in just about every country within the region. Take here in Turks and Caicos, for example. Walk into any of the restaurants in the resort area, and I can assure you that you will find dishes from countries such as Bahamas, St. Lucia, and Jamaica. Every country in the world has its own unique characteristics, which can include things like geography, culture, history, and language. But through inter-regional trade, tourists can experience a variety of countries by actually visiting only one. Mr. Speaker, being unique is a country's way of expressing its own culture. Most worthy opposition, interregional trade does little for tourism, as it does not allow countries to have distinct qualities. My final point, Mr. Speaker, is rather than acting as a support mechanism, interregional trade enhances competitiveness among the countries within the region. Yes, Mr. Speaker, you heard that right. When interregional trade leads to growth of industries and businesses within the region, it can result in increased competition for tourist attention and spending. Local businesses may find it challenging to compete with each other, leading to pricing wars and a potential decline in the quality of services to cut costs. Do not be mistaken, Mr. Speaker. We are not negating the importance of interregional trade. It has its place and it does serve its purpose. Instead, we're simply saying that interregional trade provides little support to tourism. The government pauses.
And pause they will. You would have just heard from second speaker Esther Joseph, and she spoke more about interregional trade. For those joining us online, the motion is this House believes that interregional trade offers very little support to tourism. And we have Clement Howell High from Turks and Caicos. They are the representative this afternoon. We also have with us our sponsors, Sanders International, represented by Ms. Judy Detterville, Public Relations Manager in the Communications Division, and she is joining us from Sandals, St. Lucia. We have Mrs. Natalie Jolie Fannis as well, Head of Marketing and Communication, joined in by Mr. McFarlane from the University of Mona. He's a law student there. And we invite now our third speaker, Mr. Kajay Williams. Mr. Williams, you may begin when you are ready.
Thank you. Respected House, pleasant day to you all. As we already stated by my esteemed Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, we are unyielding in our arguments today, and this will be evident as I, your government member, will solidify our stance by confirming and extending our arguments. Please allow me Mr. Speaker, to refresh the memories of all present in this honorable House today of the purpose of trade agreements with the region. The agreements broadly state that the import and exports of goods should maintain as top priority. Within this at the forefront, how then can the opposition challenge this motion? Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that intra-regional trade offers little support to tourism. In fact, based on the current regional trade agreements, there is no direct pairing of the two. Let me inform this House that it's important to note that the effectiveness of regional trade agreements is benefiting the tourism sector depends on various factors, including the level of regional cooperation, the alignment of tourism strategies, and the infrastructure of development. Aligning tourism strategies within the Caribbean region is essential for fostering regional cooperation, maximizing collective efforts, and promoting sustainable tourism development. However, today, there is no such alignment of tourism strategies within the region. Most notable members of the opposition, do not be confused. We are not saying that intra-regional trade does not offer support in other areas. No, it's quite the contrary. What are we saying is that it offers little support towards tourism. Let me inform this honorable House that having gone through the trade agreements for this region, I am yet to see any mention of any regional tourism collaboration. I am yet to see any facilitated movement of people within the region. I'm yet to see any tourism integrated marketing and promotion, and I'm still yet to see any regional tourism integration. To the opposition, I say to you, do not be misguided in your thinking. Let us face the facts. Yes, interregional trade is present in the region, and yes, interregional trade does offer support in some areas, but as it relates to tourism, intraregional provides little support. Tourism is too much of a backbone in this region for it not to be supported through intra-regional trade agreements. Here in the TCI, tourism is our main economic driver. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the government cannot be wasting time debating the very little support that intra-regional trade offers to tourism. Instead, this government is moving towards boosting tourism when the region is focusing on an integrated approach among the countries within the region. Let us encourage our neighbors within the region to join hands and hearts together to promote tourism as an aspect of intra-regional trade. Because as it clearly stands, Mr. Speaker, intra-regional trade offers little support towards tourism. The government rests.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Very good presentation
Yes, ma'am.
overall from Turks and Caicos. The judges will now deliberate their scores. We will ask that you not go too far as the scores will be announced. And we should know by end of day who our new regional champions are. We will now pause for a moment. Hi, are you guys seeing, are the judges seeing the breakout room? We are prompting the judges for another 2 more minutes. And we are back. Is everybody here? May we have a sound check?
Yes, I'm here.
We're here, miss.
Present.
Okay, so I just wanted to thank you all again. It was short notice for your participation. Turks and Caicos, you did very well. So did St. Lucia. They did extremely well this morning as well. And there are no losers in this competition because first and second place coaches will still receive prizes from Sandals. And that is a weekend destination to a Sandals of their choice. So a round of applause to Sandals International and everybody that participated this afternoon. One of the things I need you to understand is that this is your first year, right? And we want you to take away from the competition, and it's a learning experience. So with that being a learning experience, we're going to ask our judges to give their pointers, and you be open-minded to understand that this is to equip you to be better in the next round of competition. You are champions of your country, and you are now regional finalists. So let me invite the judges. I don't know who wants to start first to commentate on how they felt about the match and how you did. Who will go first? Is that Judy?
I think Xavier is going first.
Okay. And each judge can give their pointers.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, debaters. Now, you would have debated that this House believes that intra-regional trade offers very little support to tourism. Now, when the judges met and we had a consensus at them, we understood that, hey, you guys had a strong articulation of your point, but the submissions to us weren't very relevant, and the content, however, wasn't as strong, so we couldn't appreciate the points that you were bringing forth with much utility. However, we would have noted that some of the speakers would have done very well in their submission and would have scored higher than the others in this debate. Now, just a point to note that the judges would have unanimously thought that, sitting while giving your submission would have been very advantageous to your presentation. And we're noting that as we go forward in debating, that your submissions be done at a standing posture so we can, seamlessly assess your wholesome presentation. So good voice and style. Yes, you had great style and great conviction. However, the content and the strength of the content with its relevance took away from the scores that you would have gotten today.
I think that sums it up quite nicely, very, very nicely. And I really do believe.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say, I really do believe that standing makes such a difference to presenting in a debate. That makes all the difference. And so that really needs to be looked at for the next round.
Definitely for the next one, it will not be virtual, so they definitely will have to stand.
Okay.
Judy, anything from you? Natalie, who is next?
Nothing else from me. I think Xavier captured it quite nicely.
Yeah, we asked them to summarize. And I think maybe just to add, if they want clarification for the topic, I think Judge de Tourville had identified that the student, one of the debaters, actually said the opposite of his stance. So we thought he was proposing, and to the end of the presentation, he said opposing. So that threw the judges in a little bit of a conflict. The other thing for me is that you have to ensure that your examples really clearly match the point that you're making. So we actually, where one person saw your point, I was like, but that example didn't really suit the argument that you were making. So everything has to substantiate that position that you have taken. And I think that was our issue. Even in interpretation, I know one of the debaters put forward the argument that we are looking at the present in terms of offers, but that is debatable. And we had to think if there were a counter argument, offers can serve as habitual as well. It doesn't only have to be now. So your argument must be able to hold water where nobody can poke holes in them. So I think that would be it. But yes, your conviction, the use of voice, I did see you attempt to use your gestures in that posture. So we made some accommodation for that. But I look forward to seeing you guys debate again. Good job.
And just remember that
Thank you.
the judges listen to every single thing. So if even you think for a minute that the judges have fallen asleep, they have not, and they're looking for you to slip up, which was beautiful when the speaker said the opposition pauses. Those were his exact words, the opposition pauses. So the judges never fall asleep.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And who will be announcing the scores? Will that be me?
I think so.
All right. But Judy, I'm gonna ask you to say who the best speaker is though.
All right.
All right, so I have a total score from all the judges, drum roll, of 606 points for Clement Howell High, which puts them, I believe, I will not say, we prefer not to say, but I think that places them in second place, but we will make the official announcement. There is first and second place and also first and second place prize. So let us have a round of applause. On a job well done. I think Turks and Caicos, they're very promising. Remember, these are grade 10 students. So can you imagine them next year? Next year, they're going to be on fire. And so definitely they're promising. They're very, very smart kids. I was very surprised by it. And they came out very strong. So next year for sure, I know that they will do very well. Who was our best speaker today?
I believe it was Antoine Butler for all of us. We have him in number 1 as the best speaker.
All right.
That's for the afternoon session, right? Yes, correct. For the Turks and Caicos, he was the best speaker, Antoine Butler.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Butler. You are the best speaker of the competition. And so with that, I'd like to thank everyone for being with us, our sponsors, Sanders International, Camco Manufacturing and Hotel Supplies, MK Sports and Trophies. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Mr. Brian Bean, who is here with us online from the Ministry of Tourism, Turks and Caicos, as well as the other persons, coaches who I know are online watching us. Thank you so much. It is a different and happy Monday. I am your host, Michelle Tuller. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you soon.
Congratulations, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Congratulations, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for the constructive criticism.
Was that Mr. Butler?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a bright future ahead of you with your public speaking abilities.
Thank you, miss.
Definitely.
Yes, he's the incoming president for that whole debate society at the university. So
He'll do well.
congratulations to Mr.
He'll do very, very well. Yeah.
who jumped
So
in.
once he can match his content with his conviction and delivery, then he's on his way.
Yes. This would be Mr. Butler or Mr. Butler, Judy?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Mr. Butler is going to be, I told you when he finished, I said, you know, he's going to be in parliament. He's definitely going to be a minister, a future minister.